Alright fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And in this video here, we're going to be talking about Inhumans, Marvel's newest TV show. And being somebody who knows the source material, you know, I knew who the Inhumans were. I never really read a whole lot of their stuff, but I've been reading comic books since like the early 90s, so they've always popped up in a few people's books, things like that. I'm familiar with most of the characters, at least the ones from the show anyway. But we're going to talk about it here today, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, YouTube. Like, I watched it a few hours ago. I didn't want to just, you know, make a video right after I watched it, you know, like I normally do. But I've read a couple of people's reviews and seen a couple of videos online and heard about what people were saying about it, and everybody's just bashing the hell out of it, to be honest. The characters, I would say, they look far different from their comic book counterparts. For me, normally that's a big hit or miss with me. It depends on the reason, though. Like, for instance, I'm not feeling how they made, in Deadpool 2, you have Domino being black. Not feeling that. I hate when they blackwash or whitewash a character for no reason other than just the fact of, oh, we need to have a black person in this movie, so let's just do it. No, I hate that shit. I hate that shit the same way they do it to certain other characters of other races. The same difference. In this, I remember months ago they had like the set photos and stuff came out, and they showed them in the outfits and everything, and they didn't have, they wasn't in their traditional comic book outfits. I was like, okay, that makes sense. You can't be walking around, you don't see Iron Man walking around in his armor all the damn time. You have to have that casual garb that they wear and throughout the show when they're not in their regular shit. And given the fact that it's a different style too. I mean, yeah, they could have technically wore their comic book, outfits, but then it's the reason why Marvel and DC, they changed the outfits a little bit for the movies. I'm not saying you can keep that look, because Marvel has definitely shown you can just straight up put comic book costumes on screen. That's not the problem. I think the problem is this isn't a movie. It's a television show, and you have to they're working with that TV show budget. They're not working with that Marvel movie budget. That's a big difference. So they have to work with what they got. And even though I think they made the first 2 episodes, it was going to be an IMAX and all that stuff. Even though, it's technically a movie, it's still a TV show. They're just showing it in IMAX for the first couple episodes. And but outside of the outfits, I didn't really have anything. I mean, I didn't hate them. They were serviceable. They were definitely serviceable. You had a couple changes in there too. Like, I think one of the main characters was named Gorgon. He was altogether different. They just straight made him a black dude. Again, it's something that's they really have to do. If he's a part of their story, you have to have him in there, and they're working with that TV budget. Like I said, they don't have time to do CG every episode with every scene of him in it. They already got to do that enough with Lockjaw, so they just made him wear some high heels and just, oh, it's a black dude. They just went with it that way. The acting, I've heard a lot of people say the acting was super bad too, and I'm gonna say, being somebody who I'm a fan of all this comic book stuff, outside of the DCEU stuff, because they haven't gotten it done right. But the acting was, it was solid. I'm not going to say it wasn't the shittiest acting I've ever seen. I've seen far worse from watching C-rate and D-rate movies. It's nowhere near as good as a modern television show, though. I wouldn't even say it's better than, let's say, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you want to throw something with Marvel's name on it. But it was decent. It was decent. It wasn't bad. I think the problem with the story, and I'm going to touch on each individual part later, is that trying to figure out how I'm going to explain it here. it was just a problem with just the story. You know, I think they could have done it a little bit better. Because for me being somebody, like I said, I'm familiar with the Inhumans, their story, that kind of sort of thing, right? Even for me, like, I'm watching like the first half of like, you know, like episode 1, I guess you could say. And it was just like, I know who these characters are, and even I'm like bored as shit. That whole part on the moon, when they're just talking back to each other, nothing's really going on, and I guess it's establishing that the Inhumans live on the moon. I get that. I get why they have to do it, but it's just boring as shit, YouTube. I mean, it really is. Nothing really happens. You can see how Maximus is kind of weaseling his way in there, trying to do his own thing. I get that. I mean, you know, like I said, I get why they have to do it, but it just doesn't seem... I think they could have done it a little bit better. It seems kind of boring. They had a lot of setup scenes and setup shots of, like, I remember the scene when they first showed Lockjaw. They had him running over to where Crystal was and everything like that, and showing him off. Not feeling that he doesn't have the tuning fork on his head, because I know in the comic book they have that. Maybe they didn't want to... Well, I can't even say that, because I mean, he's a fucking CG dog, so put the fucking tuning fork on his head. You know, again, not a big thing. They gave him like a little fur patch that kind of looked like it, but I'm just saying. I was gonna be like, well, maybe they didn't want to put a tuning fork on a dog, but then he's a big fucking CG dog, so that throws that argument out the window. One thing that did bug me is the fact that they kind of, I guess, reintroduced the whole Terrigen transformation sequence. I guess for those of you who don't know what it is from don't reading comic books, or don't, you know, haven't read Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., not read Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because they shown it on that a few times. And in this, one thing that bugged me about it though is, like, this takes place in the same universe as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a part of Marvel's whole thing, right? Why does the transformation in this look different than in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I mean, at least bullshit a reason in there. Give me something. Like, you know, say like, oh, maybe the Terrigen crystals that were left on Earth were old or of a previous batch, or maybe their constitution was a little different. You know, and then, you know, because on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for those of you who haven't seen it, and just like in the comic books, when Inhumans become Inhumans, well, not become Inhumans because they got a little bit in them, but when they are, let's say, go through Terrigenesis. And for those of you who don't know, that's basically like take mutants from Marvel comic books, how mutants' powers would activate in puberty. For Inhumans, it's a little bit different. They have to be exposed to Terrigen mist. And when they do that, they kind of sort of cocoon around their body. Their bodies metamorphosize into whatever, you know, whatever is needed for their species according to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's really probably by random, but that could be anything. That could be anything. That could be from like, oh, I got these badass powers like Storm. I can control the weather. Let's say like Crystal, because she has like power over the elements, like fire and ice, things like that. Or you could be like the one dude who was like, oh, look, I'm gonna transform. I went from being 15 to I'm becoming a fucking door. A literal door, like a dimensional doorway. That's what he became. There's no control over it. It's not like you don't know what powers you're going to get coming out of it. You know what I'm saying? And it could change you from, let's say, one state of being into another. Not everybody gets good powers, you know, when it comes to Inhumans. Same thing goes for mutants, but at least mutants, for the most part, stay humanoid. You know, you can still walk around, you can still talk. That door guy was like, oh, I'm just a door. You know? Like, he may be able to talk, but he's just a fucking door. He can't walk nowhere. But outside of that, it's like, it looks different. In Inhumans, when they did the whole Terrigenesis scene, it was kind of like these people went in, gas went on them, and then they came out, they had powers right away. That's not how it works. And I think that they should have at least explained why this is different versus Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because like I said, it's in the same universe. So if they're doing the same thing, then they should have cocooned, and let's say, you know, cut to a scene like a day later, you know, be like, oh, look, now they're ready, and then show them, you know, cut the scene and do it that way. At least if you want to stick with continuity. Now maybe they just said we don't give a fuck, but who knows at that point. A lot of other stuff was kind of weird. Like I said, the stuff on the moon, you didn't see it long enough for you to really get a good grasp on it. You know, so when you're watching it, it just feels like boring. It just looks like a bunch of warehouses, things like that. It makes sense why it looks that way, but I wish that they'd have had at least a couple episodes explaining how their society works on the moon, because they kind of just rushed that. It's like, oh, you have the royal family and the Inhumans who have the good powers, and then you have slaves, or like an underclass that Maximus is using to try to revolt against Black Bolt and become king and all that. And you know, you kind of see that going on. I mean, everybody saw it. Even the people in the show were like, yo, Black Bolt, yo, you know he's gonna try something. And because he kept undermining his orders, he kept trying to do his own thing. Maybe it was just me, but the actor they had playing Maximus, I just didn't like him in that role, or as an actor, period. He wasn't believable to me. At least I can say, at least as far as the main team. Gorgon, Karnak, Black Bolt, Medusa, even Crystal to a point. They were all decent, like they're fine. People were talking about the acting and how it was bad. I think they fit their parts. They were fine. Black Bolt, I expect to be bland as fuck because he can't talk. That's just the way. That's the way his character is. He'll talk and then he wind up destroying the planet if he talks too loud. So I expect him to be bland. Medusa, she was okay. I mean, she kind of portrayed her character kind of like how the comic book counterpart does. I mean, it's stoic, you know, gets her point across, you know, she's her own woman type thing. They had her moments with her and Black Bolt, you know, when they were together, things like that, and it was you know, it was decent. I mean, her character was good. Gorgon was decent. He was, you know, basically the strong black guy you see in every time, you know, every TV show when they have a strong black guy. I like Karnak's character. He was always my favorite Inhuman, even from back in the day. I'm not feeling the change in his look, but again, I mean, they gotta change it because they're on that TV budget. So, but they kind of showed a couple times how his powers work, and that was pretty cool. He had this one scene where this one maid or chambermaid or whatever was serving him food, and she was giving him the eye, right? And he looked back at her and was staring at her for like 10 seconds, and Gordon was sitting there eyeing him up like, oh, what's going on? Why are you just staring at her? And Karnak pretty much broke down like, look, in the first day, you know, I will make so much love to you, we would have so much fun. The second day, you would annoy me as hell. The third day, I'm gonna end up breaking up with you. And like, he just like broke down like their relationship in like that 10-second time frame, because that's how his powers work. His powers are that he can see the weakness in everything. So he can kind of sort of not necessarily predict, but he can look at her and since he knows himself, he knows the weakness in their relationship, so he can, you know, kind of foresee it, you know, what would happen. And he basically told her and she got mad and left. But I love that scene. I'm hoping they tie into some of the stuff that was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm assuming they would have to, because a lot of the last seasons with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., not the last one particularly, but the one before that was all about the Inhumans. So I would assume they mentioned it a couple times in this, that oh, these new Inhumans are popping up, are being mistreated by normal people, so they're gonna bring them to Adelan and all that. So I'm guessing they got to touch on that. I'm hoping they at least have Daisy pop up somewhere. I mean, she was like the prime poster chick for Inhumans and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so it's like, you know, why not? But who knows if they can make that happen. Once Maximus took over and they basically went to Earth, like all the royal family, basically they got away except for Crystal, and they basically landed on Earth in different places. And I guess where the series is gonna pick up is, I guess, them finding each other in Hawaii, because that's where they all went, because another one of their guys died there, so that's why they went there. But they gotta find each other, and then I guess somehow go back to the moon, take down Maximus, probably while dealing with the humans that are trying to capture them in Hawaii and everything like that. So I can kind of see how the show is gonna go. I'm hoping they, like I said, bring in S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point, because I'm guessing you would have to. The bad guys who were chasing him in the beginning, they were Maximus's people, or maybe humans that knew or worked for Maximus or whatever. So I don't know. I thought they were just regular like government people, because where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. left off when it came to the Inhumans was that they were still being hunted and things like that, and round up, that kind of sort of thing. I think maybe they had just stopped doing that, but it's like a lot of people and a lot of paramilitary groups still was capturing and killing Inhumans. So I thought that they were just going to roll that over into this, but this seems to be like it's. I hope it's not its own separate thing, because that's just stupid. I mean, why would you make something, put it in the same universe, and then not do any kind of crossover material with it? That's why I'm saying I'm hoping they would have to bring in Shield, Daisy, at least that, at least make a mention of Shield, maybe bring in Daisy in for an episode or two, something. You know what I'm saying? They gotta at least do some kind of crossover. She will be the best person to do that with. I will say, when they got to Earth, out of out of their normal environments and everything, that's when I was like, you know what, okay, this show is getting pretty good. You had cops trying to arrest Black Bolt. They was whooping his ass in the middle of the street with nightsticks, talking about stop resisting. I'm like, he's not resisting. Y'all just whooping his ass. Being typical cops. But that's when I started liking the show more. It started to get better. Like, you had Maximus sent down this one chick, and she fought Medusa. Medusa stabbed her. She wasn't really dead. Black Bull got arrested, so he was dealing with the cops. You had this one scene when this cop was like talking shit. Was like, I forget what he said. He was like, oh, it's like, if you ever slip those cuffs, like we gonna whip your ass again. And just like right after he said it, Black Bull slipped the cuffs, took the cuffs off, and put it down on the desk, and the dude was like, oh shit. I think I laughed so hard at that scene. But yeah, I'm really feeling when they was on Earth a whole lot more than that whole section on the moon. That moon section was it's not, like I said, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as a lot of people are saying about it. It's just, you got to go in it with certain expectations. If you go in like expecting the greatest thing in the world, no, it's not. It's definitely not that. And by them probably splitting up these first 2 episodes for IMAX and in television and what, it's gonna probably take 4 or 5 episodes for it to get the ball moving on the main point of the show. And I don't know how long it is. I'm assuming it's gonna be like 18 to 22 episodes. They got to give it at least 1 season. And depending on how it does, they'll kick it out to a season 2 or season 3. I don't think it's going to be like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it's like Marvel is just going to put the money up and have them do it for a few seasons just because. I don't think that's the case. I think it's going to be one of those things where they're going to make 1 season and then see how it is. And I'm guessing that they probably won't make a season 2 because it's been getting so much flack. So unless it does a complete 180 with critical acclaim and people reviewing it and watching it as the season goes on, I just don't see that happening. That's typically not how TV works. Maybe people might see it because of bad word of mouth, because bad word of mouth will get people to see it. They might watch it to see how bad it is. So it may pick up in the future, but I highly doubt it. YouTube, this is probably going to be one of those things where it's going to probably be decent for what it is, but it probably won't go any further. I mean, they probably won't get a season 2. Maybe Marvel might kick out money for a season 2, but it's like, unless they're telling some kind of long-term story with the Inhumans, I doubt it. I would have rather, seen the Inhumans just like, how they were going to do it, like as a movie, because I think they're worth it. The Inhumans could have been, for lack of a better term, mutants in their movieverse, since they don't have the right to their X-Men characters in movies. So I thought that's what they were going to do. It makes a whole lot of sense to do that. You already had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. explain what the Inhumans are. They did a whole season and a half on it, explaining where they came from, how they get their powers, how to use their powers most of the time. So you had all of that set up, and it's like, I'm hoping they just don't be like, oh, now we have this Inhumans TV show, let's do all that setup again. It's like, for what? You don't need to do it. You could have just jumped in there and just took the ball and ran with it. So I'm hoping that, they don't do that with this, but we have to see how things go. Hopefully they get rid of a lot of those moon segments. Because like I said, I understand why they have to be there, but they were kind of boring. Something else that kind of bugged me about it was certain characters. Like earlier on in like the first 5 minutes, humans have a rover on the moon. For some reason they're searching. Why? Who knows? Because we're pretty much done with the moon and we don't care about it. But we had a rover on the moon, and it bumped into like the Inhuman city's invisible shield, right? Gorgon went out there and crushed it, and he got one of his legs seen by the camera. Karnak was cussing him out because of it, because now the humans seen him. The humans didn't know what it was. It was just like a blurry hoof on the camera feed, right? But the drone got destroyed because obviously he destroyed it. The one lady who was controlling it worked for like I forget what agency they said, but let's say NASA. You know, the woman who was controlling it back in NASA, she was getting in trouble because the drone got destroyed. She was like, "Oh, what happened? It's your job to find out. You know, we didn't break a multi-million-dollar drone. You were the one that was piloted." I was like, that black guy's whole role, I seen him in a bunch of other B-rate movies, but his whole role in this was just dumb as shit, YouTube. I kid you not. Like, it was just so stupid. Like, she pulled in evidence, was like, look, we're tracking these energy signals from the moon. They're going down to Hawaii. We don't know what it is, but look, we can clearly see the drone bumped into something that's not there. That's on camera. They can clearly see it bumped into something fucking invisible. They don't know what it is, but it's almost like that black guy just didn't believe her at all. Almost as if like he was there to hide the secret, like, you know, like he really knew the city was there, but he was trying to convince her it wasn't, you know. And it's like all his whole bullshit side of like, oh, what are you doing? Like it's you know, like, we don't know what happened. You just broke it. Find out why. And then when she finds evidence, he's like, I think you're studying this too much. I think, you know, you got in over your head, and like he basically, you know, gave her like a leave of absence. I was like, what the fuck is this bullshit? She's like the only person who's like, she's bringing you actual evidence and you're just throwing it away just because, like, you're not even listening to her. Hated that. It was just so stupid. But I don't know. Like I said, I think Inhumans is gonna be decent, but it's not gonna change the world. It's, you know, I really, it'll be hard if it gets a second season, maybe a third, but I just, like I said, the audience would have to turn around and do a 180 with how they like it, and I just don't see that happening. But anyways, fellas, that's just my thoughts on the Inhumans, I guess, the first 2 episodes. And if you guys seen it, let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.